Hi guys, today I want to talk to you about something that most people are actually totally unaware of, and there's very few people that are talking about it. And this is something that I've been banging on about now for well over 4 years, and that is the migration from a centralized digital network to a decentralized digital network. In order for people to really fully understand what is actually going on, you have to go back as far back as the 1970s, pre the internet time. Now, there's a lot of people that I speak to, and more so probably over the last 18 months, who think this is just crazy, think it's absolutely crazy what I'm trying to get across. But the reality is, it's not. It's real. This is actually fact, and this is true. So, what I'm hoping to do today is explain to you the conversations that I'm having now, and probably more so, like I say, since maybe the last 12 to 18 months, and that is the migration of the system, the global system, from a centralized environment that has been around since the 1970s, pre-internet really, to where we are now in a decentralized era, and the migration of technology, or migration of data into a blockchain environment. So what I'm hoping to do over the next few minutes is to explain to you and really take you right the way back to the 1970s and what we had in the 1970s and how it changed over the last 30 to 35 years and where we are actually now today in 2017. Now, I say to a lot of people that really we were thrown overboard in the 1970s as far as the financial system goes, because very few people realised that the 1970s to the 80s was really the migration of where we were pre the internet and the way that people lived their lives. Everything fundamentally changed in the 70s to the 80s with the advent of the internet and the advent of financial derivatives. Now, I've explained financial derivatives on numerous occasions, and I was invited, as some of you will know, I was invited down to the Kaiser report in January of 2016 to talk to Max about what I'm trying to explain here today. And of course, Max homed in on debt and derivatives and the application of blockchain technology to the debt and derivatives. And what I'm hoping to get across today is what very few people are actually talking about. And that is, in order to understand what is happening now, today, in 2017, with the advent of blockchain technology, you have to really understand where we've come from. Now, there's people who will go back, say, to 2008, to the financial crisis, and then there'll be some people saying, "Oh no, you've got to go back a bit further. You've got to go back to the dot-com era, 2000." Some people say, "Well, you've got to go a little bit further back. You've got to go really back to the early 1990s." For me personally, I think you've got to go further. You've got to go really back, and you've got to really go back to a period pre the internet, around about the 1971, 72 era. So you're talking of a period really now which is, 45 plus years. And when I said earlier on about, we were thrown overboard in the 70s, this is reality. This is what has happened. The system, the overall system, and I'm not just talking the financial system, I'm talking the complete global system. It's the markets, it's the financial system, it's the debt markets, the bond markets, and the media. Really, you have to take the media as part of the overall system. And what has actually happened in the last 30 to 35 years since the advent of the internet, a system or the system has actually been operating on what has been called or what is classed as a centralized system. Now, a centralized system is a system where one server talks to another server. Now, people will say, yeah, but it's on the internet. Well, that's fine, but it's still one server talking to another server. And you've got the data on one server that is being extracted onto the data of another server. Now, recently, there's been a spate of high profile hacks. And people are saying, oh, it's all about hacking and it's all about, the management of the data. Well, really, the true reality is that the internet that was born in the 80s really was always built around a decentralized system. So when you actually look at the invention of the internet and how the internet came about and was born in the early 80s and adopted in the early 80s, it was picking up a server to server interface which was pre the internet, applying it to the internet, and really all you've then got is just got a multiple of servers one-on-one, talking one-on-one, data transfer data. Now, when you actually create a centralized system, you actually control the flow of data and you control the storage of data and the information that the data is actually the way the data is actually extracted and distributed. Now, when you look at what has happened over the last 30 to 35 years regarding the media, regarding the distribution of data, you've actually got a centralized system which is conditioning the way that data is shared. Now, if you're into that sort of thing, that's great. Me personally, I strongly believe that if you've got data that is going to be shared, then you want to know whether that data is right or wrong. And the only way that you can share that data that is going to be shared globally to say whether it is right or wrong is to actually put it onto a distributed network so that no one holds or nobody owns the data. Now, there are a lot of people who are getting confused regarding, what data is actually being extracted and shared across the network. Well, it's cryptography that deciphers the actual distribution of the data. So you've got a piece of data that, in order for it to be secure, rather than hold it on one server and allow that one server to centralize the distribution into the field, you actually take that data, distribute it over a network of computers or network of servers, and then allow the network of servers then to actually share that data outside. Now, when people ask me all the time, well, what actually is blockchain, and why do you keep saying that blockchain technology is fundamentally going to change everything? Now, when I say it's fundamentally going to change everything, I mean everything, not just a little piece of information that is shared like this, or a little piece of information that is shared over here. I'm talking of fundamental changes. Humanity is absolutely going to undergo one of the biggest fundamental changes that has been witnessed over the last 40 years. And really, I can't stress it enough that the advent of blockchain technology is not just a matter of a methodology to share data. It's actually taking you back to the pre-1970 and saying that you're going to take a piece of data, whether it be a piece of news, a piece of transaction, whatever that data is. In pre the internet, or in the 1970s, it would be one server to another server, and that was it. Whereas the data that we've actually got now has been manipulated and has been conditioned so that people automatically pick up something, read it, assume that it's coming from a reliable source, therefore it must be right. Well, it isn't. That's the fundamental. You read something and you've got to say to yourself, where's that data coming from? Is that data coming from a decentralized network? In other words, a network that has shared the data, that has managed the data, that has measured the data for accuracy? Or is it coming from a source which is centralized? Well, if it's coming from a source that is centralized, in other words, one server that is holding the data and is distributing that across a group of people or group of continents, a mass distribution of data, you've got to ask yourself, is that data right? Because it's only as right as the server that it's coming from. And I talk to a lot of people about this, and you either believe that it's right, or you actually challenge and say, well, hang on a minute, I can see where Stephen's coming from. Where Stephen's coming from, if he's saying that the data is coming from one source and is actually being extracted and distributed, then it's only as good as the data that is actually sat on that resource and is being shared. Whereas if you look at what Stephen is saying about a distributed network, the blockchain technology, distributed digital network, where not one party owns the data is actually distributed across a network of computers or network of servers before it's then released into the field. That's fundamental. That is absolutely a fundamental change. And I'm sorry to be the bearer of bad news, but this is what's going to happen. And you have to look back over, the last 30, 35, 40 years at some fundamental, horrendously fundamental news coverage and things that have been reported. And if you look back at things that have been reported and straight away you challenge, what you've been told, what you've seen, what you've been told, is that right? Well, the first question that you have to ask is, where's the data come from? Where has that information come from? Has it been verified? Has it been validated? And has it been evaluated? Anybody can pick up a story, they can manipulate that story, they can twist the truth, and they can share that data. They can do that. Nothing's stopping them doing that. What's going to happen in the future is that piece of data, that before it gets manipulated or twisted or changed, it's actually going to have to be put onto a network of servers. And it's those network of servers that is actually going to determine, is that data right? And I can't stress enough that I was invited down last year, as you well know, onto the Kaiser report. And I talked to Max in great detail about derivatives and the financial derivatives migrating onto the blockchain. I'm not talking about that now. I'm talking about the system, the media system, what is actually going on, and taking that information and distributing it across a network of computers. Rather than having a film crew go out, film something, alter the image, change the story, manipulate the data, and then feed that out into the network. No, I'm talking about taking a piece of film, putting it across a distributed network of computers, allowing the network of computers to verify whether that information is right and whether the story is right, and then distributing it. Massive change, fundamental change. And this is what, you know, I mean, I've been talking about this now for nearly 4 years, and at first, when I first mentioned it, people thought, well, this is crazy. This is absolutely crazy, because this is challenging what the narrative is actually telling us. Well, it's fact. I'm not changing anything. I've not, you know, manipulated anything in the past. I've not altered anything. What I'm trying to get across, and the message that I'm trying to get across, is that the fundamental manipulation that has gone on over the last 30 to 40 years, this is going to get unwound. This is going to be unwound. And people think, well, it can't be. How can it be unwound? It is. You know, I find it bizarre that there's a handful of people in the world who are actually talking about this. A handful. And I think, well, hang on a minute, you know, the people I'm talking to, and the people who understand the digital distributed technology, the blockchain technology, and I'm saying, well, you know, is this right? Is it actually right? I believe I'm right, and a lot of people are saying, well, you're either 100% right or 100% wrong. If you're 100% wrong, well, you're wrong. But if you are 100% right, massive changes, and it's fundamentally going to change everything. The whole system, the global system, the financial system, the media system, everything. The way information is shared, it'll be like taking the internet and pumping it full of steroids, and really, even then, we're nowhere near it, because you're coming from a part where it's been so manipulated, and it's been so, you know, the truth has been so distorted, to actually get back to where we were pre this manipulation and allow the distributed network to actually measure that. I can't even begin to tell you. So I hope this gets out. I really do. I want people to talk about it. I want people to share it. And I want people to understand that the blockchain technology, the distributed network that is actually right in front of us now, and is actually, you know, it's happening. This is not something that is a pipe dream. You know, this is reality. And I want people to really understand that if the blockchain, the distributed network, actually sits right on top of the internet, and is actually the way that information is going to be shared, distributed, and reported, then well, I think people are in for a nasty shock. The ones who know that this is what's going to happen, they're going to be okay, you know, because they can plan it, they can prepare themselves. But the ones who are totally oblivious to it, I think they're going to come. I think there's going to be a lot of people who's going to get a lot of nasty shocks, And when do I think it's going to happen? I think it's already started. I honestly think that it started in December, between September and December of 2015. And if you actually go back and look at what happened in that period, then, you know, people say, yeah, but the markets are still going up, you know, and the economy's still strong. Forget it. Absolutely forget it. You know, I've said it before, the economy, the market, and the stock market are three completely different things. And anybody who says, oh, it's a double dip, and, you know, the economy's in a double dip, and it's a rising market, therefore it's a rising economy, a double dip, they're seeing a picture of a manipulated graph. So straight away they say, oh, the economy's in a double dip because the stock market's in a double dip. No, the stock market is a manipulated market. You know, with the derivatives, with the stimulus, with the debt, you can have that going up in any direction. You could have it going up in bloody in circles if you wanted to, in spinning blooming circles. You know, I mean, a lot of people think, well, oh, you know, the market's going up, so therefore you must be wrong. Well, hang a minute, take out the derivatives, take out the stimulus, and take out the debt. Is it going up then? No, it's going down. And this is what people are trying, are fighting against. If you challenge what is actually being told and you say, well, hang on a minute, that actually can't be right. It can't be right. It can't, because you've got all this manipulation going on. Well, if you take that manipulation out, what's in front of you is a completely different story, And if that story is then shared across a distributed network, that's where the answer comes from. So, I hope this gets out, and I hope people, takes this serious, because I think over the next, it's happening now, so I would probably say over the next 18 months, you're going to see a migration, and people are going to start thinking, hang on a minute, why is this changing? It's changing because the blockchain distribution of data is kicking in now. That's actually happening now. So there's going to be a shift. There's going to be a huge shift, and I think this shift is going to be bigger than anything that we saw in 2000 and in the pre-2000. Certainly it's going to be a lot bigger than 2008, and I think this is going to be a biggie. I really do. So hope it gets out. If you want to leave a comment, I'm going to put a little blog together about it on Steam it. So hopefully you guys are having a great time, and speak to you soon. Cheers, guys.